Hey everyone, how you doing? I'm Walt from 101 WKQX. Thanks for coming to the lounge, brought to you by Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. Are you guys ready for a great show this afternoon? I mean, they put on a hell of a show last night, and they're going to do it again today. Please give it up, the Smashing Pumpkins. Welcome, you guys. I'm off here in the corner, by the way, kind of in the dark. First of all, welcome back. Welcome home. It's good to have you here in Chicago. What an epic show last night. 3 hours, 31 songs. How hard is it to come up with a set list that spans all of the different textures that incorporate the Smashing Pumpkins?
I don't know. It was weird because I drew up the set list maybe months before we started rehearsing because we had to figure out what we were going to do for all the filmed visuals, and we never changed the set list, which is bizarre because that always happens. But I spent a lot of time trying to find the balance between kind of the songs people would want to hear and the songs that I think would tell our story, because our stories, like as fans know, is just as much about the deep cuts in the album as the singles.
It was very comfortable to hear some of those old songs again. You kept it focused on the first 5 records. And the visuals were amazing. Who helped develop all of those?
Well, my partner, Linda Strawberry, who I've known literally since she was 17 years old. I met her when she was just a musical artist in Salt Lake City. She's been a family band friend for all these years, and so she's become a video director, producer, and so we hatched this idea to do this crazy show that would tell this narrative story, because we felt if we were going to do a 3-hour show, there was no way that you could just expect people to just sit there and watch us play. And having seen stuff like Roger Waters' The Wall, I was really inspired by how the visual element can really add a level of emotion to the evening. And then when you get into the retrospective aspect, which is just playing songs from the first 5 albums, you can play with memory and time and space. So Linda shot a bunch of stuff. We worked with a really talented group of people, some visual artists that did some of the, including my friend who lives here in Chicago, Caitlin Foisey, who did some of the animation stuff. But it was totally like we just winged all this stuff and put it up there, and it kind of works.
And it looked super impressive. The moving screens, the production, all of it. Even had the twins from the Siamese Dream.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we had the ladies from the Siamese Dream cover. They came back.
But I guess they're not really twins, are they?
Well, it's funny because people always thought they were twins, which is I guess one of those kind of mythological things,
Yeah, at one point they were conjoined twins. Which, like, I don't see how you get that from the photo, but nonetheless.
Yeah, I've heard it all. Yeah.
So what was the impetus to put the original lineup back together again, to bring James back?
James, you want to jump in on that?
Hey. There was no master plan as far as like we're putting the band back together. I reached out to Billy, and we had a nice dinner, and just started from that, and more just about becoming friends again, and just talking, basic communication.
Yeah, it's cool. It starts there where you acquaint each other as friends before the
That's
music.
how the band started. I mean, it was really built around our friendship and our love of music, and this crazy idea that we had that we could do all these styles of music under one roof. And so I think when we sort of were able to reconnect as friends, and it wasn't like we had one dinner like let's get the band back together. It was just like we would get together when I was in LA and have family dinners and stuff like that, and you just realize that whatever was the issue is not an issue anymore.
Right.
And then music becomes a natural extension of how to best express your relationship, because that's obviously the place we've connected the most.
So now that you are friends again and now playing music again, how does it feel? Does it feel different than it has in the past 10 years without James, now that everybody's back playing together again?
It's weird because I know from the outside, And I know sometimes when I've looked at other bands and sort of what I think is happening as a fan looking at a band, and then having had the experience and, of course, hearing from people what they think, it's strange, but I think if we could do it all over again, I think we would have done it different. But having turned out the way it's turned out, I mean, Jimmy's left and come back different times, and obviously James not being in the band all those years, I think now that we're together again, the band is stronger than ever, because the things that we learned without each other was really valuable and has a lot to do with where we are right now. But I think we have such a greater and deeper appreciation for one another and our friendship and our love as a family. We like Smashing Pumpkins. I mean, I get teary thinking about it because it's such a crazy journey.
Yeah.
Because and you know, here we are in Chicago. You know, even playing last night at the United Center sold-out show, it's like, wow, this is crazy, you know. Most of these songs that we play are, you know, they were written right here. And, you know, it's you know, show business is a bit of smoke and mirrors, as we like to say. You know, it's a lot of putting on airs and stuff. But, you know, when I stand across from James and I look at Jimmy, I mean, you know, I see us in dingy rehearsal spaces when nobody cared about us. I see us dragging our equipment through snow. I see hipsters making fun of us in 1989 saying, what is it you guys are even trying to do?
Right.
So when you have that bond and that connection, and that never goes away. And so that's really what binds us. All the other stuff is really amazing, and I think we're really appreciative that people are still interested. But the thing that really is deep is like, wow, we're still connected. That's crazy. 30 years and counting. I mean, it just blows my mind.
Well, I thought it was obvious last night to see you guys interact on stage. You could feel that bond. And I've seen you guys since, you know, my band Stabbing Westward played with you guys in '89 at the Avalon. You know, so I've seen you for decades.
I saw you dragging your stuff through the snow.
Right. Up those stairs in the back, you know.
Yeah, the Avalon, the treacherous back stairs.
The worst load-in in the country. But nonetheless, I thought this band is the best I've ever heard it last night. Kudos to you. I'm so glad you're back. How about a song?
Sure. Let's play a song by another band.
I took my life, I took it down. I climbed the mountain, I turned around, and I saw my reflection in a snow-covered hill till the landslide brought it down. There in the sky, what is love? Can the child within my heart rise above? Can I sail through changing ocean tides? Can I hands up seasons of my life? Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I built my life around you. Time makes you bolder, even children get older. I'm getting older too. Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I built my life around you. Time makes you bolder, even children get climbed a mountain, I turned around, and I saw my reflection in a snow-covered hill till a landslide brought it down. Till a landslide brought it down.
That's so good. Emily, how's that? Pretty good? It's Emily's birthday, and she won the best seats in the house thanks to Wintrust. So she's having a great afternoon, great birthday. And so yeah, give it up for Emily. And anybody can win these seats, the best seats in the house, just by listening to 101 WKQX for the keyword. Guys, you did a couple of covers last night. How do you pick the covers that you did? You did Space Oddity. Stairway to Heaven was incredible. I mean, it takes a lot of balls to play a song like that, and you guys pulled it off.
Is that a question? Or?
It is. I mean, like, there was one in there, and then I wrapped that in the. How do you pick these songs?
I don't know. It depends. I think that the concert experience has changed in that, you know, some people blame the cell phone, and other people say it's just we live in such a fast-paced world now that, attention spans are that of a goldfish. So I think if you're going to do if you're going to do deep cuts, they need to be fairly well known, or they need to be pretty dynamic live cuts. And if you're going to do covers, they need to sort of change the sort of temperature of the show. And so that's how I like to use covers, is like songs I wished I'd written, or songs I wished we had a song like that, to try to change just the mood around in the show, so it's not just the same our mood all the time.
Right. Well done on the songs you picked. You just did a 30th anniversary show, which is pretty wild when you think about it, to be a band for 30 years. But it was incredible. You had all kinds of people. Chino came up. You had Courtney Love on hand. Mark McGrath, who actually also appears in the current live show in video form. What was your favorite memory, favorite moment from the 30th anniversary show?
Honestly, all of it was amazing. I mean, Jack's dad, Peter Hook from Joy Division Order, came and played with us, which was awesome. And we did 3 his songs. We did 2 songs, actually 3 songs with Courtney, but 2 songs that Courtney and I wrote together. Chino came out and did Bodies off of Melancholy, and Snail off our first album, and just blew the house up. I mean, it was unbelievable, because we hadn't played that song in years, and It was like I got goosebumps just thinking about it just now. It's just amazing. Mark came out and did Fly.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad it wasn't a disaster. Because
did you rehearse any?
well, no, not
No,
really.
like sound check.
But,
Was just
but it
kinda-
was good. It was good.
And Mark did Breaking the Law by Judas Priest.
Right.
And I'm leaving somebody. Mark and Dave from
Mark and
Killers
Dave from Killers, yeah.
came out and played with us. It was an amazing night, beautiful night.
Yeah. Are you working on new stuff now? Is there going to be something new coming? Working with Rick Rubin?
Well, we did 8 songs with Rick Rubin that we thought we were just going to do 1 song with Rick Rubin. The idea of do a single and announce the tour. And we ended up doing 8 songs, which he really didn't. We just thought we were just going to do 8 songs, and we never really thought, well, what are we going to do with these? So now we're putting out the 8 songs at the end of the year. So there's another song coming really soon called Silvery Sometimes, parentheses, Ghosts. And it's a cool song, so we're looking forward to that coming out. And then, like I said, all the 8 songs will be out by the end of the year. So it's weird because it's not really an album in the sense of we sat and said, most of our albums have a sort of conceptual base. But I think it probably maybe harkens back a little bit more to like a Pisces Iscariot, where it's a cool collection of songs.
Right.
And it has a vibe because it isn't trying to be the other thing. And so sometimes I know a lot of fans that I meet really like Pisces because it has a kind of a loose-knit, almost like a mixtape feel. So I think the new record has that kind of mixtape feel.
Was the writing process different going into this one because you have James back?
Not at all. No. I mean, traditionally, the songwriter it was a James song or a Billy song. The songwriter sort of brings in the song, and everybody just kind of works on it. Jeff's Schroeder over here. Jeff's been in the band for 12 years,
Right.
and so pretty deep in the process of how we work. And I mean, we did 16 demos, 16 separate song demos in 3 weeks before we went in with Rick. We thought Rick would just pick one song and we'd just get on with it, and Rick wanted to do 8 songs, and it was kind of like, okay. So
Sure. Yeah,
we
you're
had to
not gonna
rewire our
say
brains
no,
there
yeah.
for a second, but everyone's heard it, likes it. It kind of has an old school feel in a good way. Rick's good at that. He kind of has a way of getting the old school feel without it sounding like you're trying to do the old school feel.
Right.
So it sounds very cool, comfortable, and everybody that's heard it's like just freaking out about how good it is,
It's
which
got
is great because I've done a lot of music people don't have that reaction to.
It's got to be really great because you have 3 amazing guitar players on the stage here, as you could see in the show last night, and even just right here. Do you write like that, knowing that you've got this arsenal of guitarists?
I think our philosophy, I don't want to speak for you, but our philosophy has always been whatever the song needs, which is why a song like 1979, has guitar, but it's not really, it's more about other stuff. I mean, we never really cared, And even when people try to peg us as a grunge band, we were always like, we're not really that kind of band. We're more like a Beatles, Led Zeppelin band, and that we just want to do what we want to do when we want to do it. And so, I love playing guitar, but, I'm up there playing piano
You
on
play
an
the piano.
8-foot tower.
It's cool.
Yeah.
How about another song, speaking of Pisces?
Sure. Well, I'll do the introduction. This young man, Mr. James Eha from Elk Grove, Illinois. Now, before we do the song, because it's been a while since I've been out to your neck of the woods, do they still have the elk?
They do. They do. They do. It's a nice thing. You can visit them,
Yeah,
but you're not supposed to feed them.
because,
Well, people would give them a Snickers bar.
oh, okay.
Or, their very specific diet.
So we like to do a song that's actually on the Pisces is Scared album, right?
Yes.
Blew Away,
Yes.
James's song.
Yes. Yes. Blue, blue away, but I don't wanna fade. Blue, blue, ooh. And if you love her, you know it will come true. And if you need her, you know that she'll be there. Stay away, I lie here with her and the phone. And when I wake inside you, I know you'll know. Carry on. And blue, blue away, but I don't wanna fade. Blue, blue, ooh. And if you're sad too, until the angel sings and touches you, don't confuse my only life. I said blue. Please don't ever leave, and I will grieve and remember thee. I hope to meet you there.
so. And blue, blue, blue away. But I don't wanna blue. I love you.
So the other night, you got to throw out the first pitch at Wrigley Field. Was that actually turned out pretty well because they won that game. You want to come back and do that more often?
Well, Jimmy Chamberlain, sitting here, he practiced.
I practiced all day Sunday at my house because it was absolutely terrifying, right, to go out there and throw out the first pitch, knowing that so many things could go wrong, and it could be like a YouTube moment that lives forever, right?
Right.
Plus
Tell them what you set up in the backyard.
So, and I have two small, well, not small, but I have two kids, one of which is an athlete who is really kind of going, Dad, you know this, if you screw this up, it's going to be bad, right? So
No pressure.
It's a lot of pressure from my 12-year-old Lucas. In advance of the game, I took a laundry basket, and we kind of have a big front porch where I live. So I set up a laundry basket with a blanket in it, and then measured 60 feet out into the yard and spent like the next hour throwing fastballs at the basket. And I got it to where I could hit it probably 30% of the time in the basket. Then I broke the basket a couple times, which I thought was a good thing. But yeah, and then I went back inside and realized that I had some weird pain in my back, right?
No.
But yeah, luckily all the practicing paid off, and we delivered a strike, and then the Cubs obviously delivered an incredible win.
Yeah, what a day, right? Throughout the first pitch, sing the seventh inning stretch, walk-off grand slam.
That's a beautiful night at Wrigley.
So which, in my ideological frame means we're all dead, that it didn't happen. We're actually not here right now.
No.
Right? Yeah. No, it was a great day. And I had thrown out the first pitch one time before at a Diamondbacks game and had no practice, so I know like how going in cold is not the way to do it, right? And that's kind of how they get you, right? They're like, hey, I just throw out the first pitch, and they don't give you any warm-up, right? Because you're asking like, hey, where's the bullpen? Like, can I go warm up? They're like, well, you can go walk out there and maybe throw it back and forth a couple times, but
They're not going to let you.
yeah,
throw in the
I wasn't
bullpen.
falling for that. So I spent a lot of time just throwing balls at a
And
laundry basket.
small note, they usually send out one of the players to do the catch.
Right.
So they sent out Carl Edwards Jr., who throws like 96.
Right. Right.
It's just
But
a little intimidating.
It was a legit pitch, though, I must say.
It was a strike.
It was
Yeah,
a
I
strike.
can confirm.
It looked good.
It had a little break.
It actually
on
had
it.
a break.
Real good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it all paid off.
Well, it was a good night for sure. Going back to the early days and pulling your gear through snow here in Chicago, what were your favorite memories of coming up in Chicago? Anything stand out?
Great memories in Chicago, Billy.
One. Narrow it down to one.
I think we struggled because we had this crazy idea of what the band could be, and it wasn't really supported in the sense that we didn't look around at other local bands and see them doing similar things. We were more influenced by what was going on in England or in LA. So there was a good year and a half, 2 years there, and you were certainly there when we were playing, where we were trying to kind of figure out this thing that we couldn't quite get at. And the minute we seemed to figure it out, it was crazy. It was all of a sudden there was like 800 people at the Metro overnight.
Right.
And I just remember that feeling like whatever we just figured out, don't change it because something's happening. And that's when we started doing songs like Tristessa and Shiva, and became kind of like what people call the pumpkin sound, that wall.
Right.
Once we figured that out, it was like,
Where did that come from, the idea of adding guitars? I heard like Butch Vig had to create maps to how many guitar tracks were on Siamese Dream.
well, I was very influenced by, Black Sabbath and stuff like that, but, there wasn't necessarily a comparable sound like that in alternative rock. I mean, there was things like Dinosaur Jr. where Jay was playing really loud guitars, and certainly My Bloody Valentine. But to try to synergize essentially classic rock moves into almost like UK shoegaze or something, that was so bizarre to try to make work. It took a long time, and I don't even know really what we eventually figured out. But obviously we know how to do it. But there's some sort of weird combination of like what the bass and drums are doing and what the guitars are doing. They kind of go together, but they kind of don't, and somehow that makes the sound. Where like in normal rock, it's like everybody kind of lockstep to kind of create this, like think of Metallica or something, like this kind of physical thing. And then if you think of classic shoegaze, it's almost more dance or something, but you wouldn't necessarily think there's a heaviness there. That combination of heaviness and dreamy thing over the top, that always was like, it's like suddenly all these just teenagers started showing up from everywhere, you know, with distressed feelings. I don't know. It was just strange. It was like there it was.
Well, you tapped into something. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
And just one other thing, because I think it's a great question. You know, whatever that, you know, to me it was very personal. And I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, and I just remember having that feeling of like looking at the strip mall and thinking, is this my world? You know, it's like, you know, my downtown was a McDonald's and a Burger King. You know, and a lot of people grew up in that. What I could have never understood is that once we figured out that language to where people were connecting with us in that level, then it sort of seemed to go everywhere. Because in many ways, that's kind of where America was going, this kind of ubiquitous culture that's not really culture at all. It's sort of based on, and then now it's obviously blown up into the internet. It's kind of like, what is it?
Right.
And we tapped into that sort of angst or something. But there was no design on it. We were literally just trying to find a sound that we thought represented the way we felt.
And it was unique. It was definitely unique, I thought, at the time. And you were at the right timing as well, because think about 1991, the fall of 91, you toured with Chili Peppers, and you had an opening band with Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
Talk about, you know, when Nirvana broke that fall, Metallica's Black Album. I mean, a lot happened in a very short period of time.
Yeah. That Chili Pepper tour was crazy because we got a call. And Anthony Kiedis later told me he saw our video on MTV, 120 Minutes, and just off of seeing I think it was Shiva, seeing the video one time, they invited us to be the opening band. And then on top of that, they threw this unknown band called Pearl Jam. And when the tour started, probably the first week or so, 2 weeks, there seemed to be some, in wrestling we call it boo-boo face. There seemed to be some unhappy people. And I couldn't really figure out. We were on the back end of our record, which was a big success. So we were flying high, and we're on this big tour, and Chili Peppers and everything, right? And I remember kind of pulling some people aside, not from the bands, but like people involved with the band, saying, "What's going on?" And I say, "Well, you know, the Chili Peppers are upset because the record company's really not supporting their record, and Pearl Jam's upset because the record company's really not supporting their record." So it almost looked like, oh, well, this, you know, and again, we didn't really know everybody like we know them now. So it was kind of like, oh, it's really not going well for them. But there was you know, Chili Peppers were a big band. And then all of a sudden, Under the Bridge hit, and that tour starts to take off because everyone wants to see the Chili Peppers. And then I think it was Jeremy or Alive hit. And then suddenly it was like, so we had this triple crowd of Pumpkins fans, Chili Pepper fans, and Pearl Jam. It's like this legendary tour because this was all hitting at this exact same time, and then obviously it was a great time for rock. You know,
an amazing fall, and it really set up the entire decade, I think.
Yeah, we're still paying for it.
So, all right. So, on the back end of that tour, you're going into Siamese Dream. Did you feel any pressure going into that after having the success of Gish?
Oh, yeah. Well, to give you a context, our record Gish, which was on an independent label called Caroline, at the time was the largest selling independent record ever released. Wow. I think at that point we'd sold about 350,000, 400,000 copies, which even today is still a big number. Yeah. And then this little band called Nirvana comes out, and it sold a gazillion copies. And then Pearl Jam sold a gazillion copies. So the standard of what was a successful record literally changed on us overnight. We went from being like, wow, you guys are doing great, big future, to like, oh, you're not going to quite make it. And it was like, whoa, what happened? And radio, obviously, alternative radio around 1991, I think there were 7 stations in America. And by the mid-90s, I think there was 100 and something stations. So obviously, and here we are, still playing the alternative rock. So, it was a cultural movement. It was a music business movement. It was really a hostile takeover of the sort of systems that existed, and suddenly it was, being populated by people who weren't, didn't really care about the perfect photo and the perfect posture, and it was like it just felt so different. So, but to answer your question faithfully, yeah, we're a bunch of misanthropes, but suddenly you're staring down the barrel of like, you better come up with a big record.
Did you have those songs written before, or did you write them going into Siamese Dream?
No, we wrote everything before. We practiced like crazy. I think we practiced for about 4 months because we knew. I mean, it was this or back to, Burger King.
So now that you play those songs now, do you still have that same connection with them that you had 25 years ago?
No.
Or do you have to create new meanings for them?
No, it's I still connect with them because they're very personal to me, but at the same point, when you see somebody who's 20 years old who was born after the album came out and they're connecting, that's wild, because then it's like, okay, whatever this represents to that point in life still connects. That's a pretty humbling thing. The context starts to grow beyond your own stuff.
Do you get that thing where parents who were into you are bringing their kids now? It's going like...
There was a guy in the front row last night who had his, I think you were right there, had like maybe a 7-year-old daughter. And there was another kid there, it was probably 10. They were in the front row the whole night.
They were losing their minds.
Then the girl passed out,
But
about halfway through the show, and the dad was holding her the whole time, and it was so cute. And the mom kept taking pictures of the girl passed out with like us in the background. And normally, spoiler alert, I hate when
I didn't think they should have brought her. They shouldn't.
As a parent?
As a parent, I don't think they should have brought that kid.
Why didn't you throw them out then?
Well, I mean, I didn't. I was looking for the headphones too.
They did
But
have
they-
earplugs in. They did being next to them. They did
Really,
have
they
earplugs.
make earplugs that small?
Yeah, I
for-
don't know
for
how good they
kids?
were, but they did have
I felt
earplugs.
bad for the kid.
Yeah. On that
All right,
note,
well, you were in the end of my stories. I'm going to stop.
how about another song?
All right.
Today is the greatest day. Today is the greatest day that I have ever really known.
Well, Jeff, you are our newest Chicagoite out of the bunch here. And James, last night you were trying to get him to tell us what his favorite pizza was here. And you want to take another stab at that?
Pizza?
You're asking Jeff what his favorite pizza in
I
Chicago
didn't,
is.
I didn't say anything about pizza. No, we were just, I don't know how we were just like deciding what to eat after, and talked about pizza. And then we talked about deep dish pizza and what was the best. It's a boring
Yeah,
conversation,
anyway.
but
Never-ending conversation about deep dish.
I do love pizza. It's great.
Do you remember when I delivered pizzas? Did you know me in the pizza delivery era?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds familiar.
Well, guys, thanks so much.
He's going to a
Not-
hard break.
No,
He's
no,
got to
no.
get off the pizza story.
Yeah, I'm trying to save you, James. To get off the pizza thing, I just want to say thanks again for coming together, making great music for 30 years. We love you. We appreciate you. Welcome home to Chicago. Please give it up for the Smashing Pumpkins.